Hi and welcome to another repaint video. I'm Hannah from Hoodles and this is the last Teamon. Almost. I already have a bonus repaint, but that's for later. She's a spin-off, so please don't mind. This doll is based on Matcha, which doesn't need much introduction, it's everywhere. I used to make white chocolate matcha fudge for Christmas and it's divine. But I've only tried drinking real matcha once and I don't think I prepared it the right way. It was too bitter and I didn't drink it fast enough, so it kinda went cold, and cold tea is not good unless it's iced tea, then it's super good. I mean, what's the deal with that? Anyway, I'm rambling while reading from a manuscript. How about that? I seldom go off script, but when I do, I make no sense. Anyway, the illustration is finished, so without further ado, let's dive into this, and as usual it starts with a broken cup. And a weird allergic reaction, my hands turned bright red and started stinging, still trying to figure out where that came from. Here I'm sanding the edges at an angle to create grooves where the paint will go, then I glue the pieces together like a little 3D puzzle. The final piece is added, then I leave it to dry before I remove the excess glue with acetone and a cotton pad. Then I paint the cracks with acrylic gold paint, remove the excess with acetone, and there you have it. Looks pretty clean. To prevent the resin from leaking, I seal the inside with nail polish and it is finished. For this custom I used create a monster doll without legs. They've run off to somewhere. Oh, and she's missing a hand. The head is super easy to detach. The whole point with these dolls is that you can take them apart and change limbs, which is kinda cool. Here I'm removing the Faceup with acetone. Nowadays I buy acetone in bulk at the hardware store because I use it a lot. Before the Faceup I paint a base layer with my airbrush, first white and then pink. It's hard getting the intended color when painting on a green canvas with pastels. And yes, it's super fun painting with the airbrush, so I take the opportunity. Afterward I spray a base coat of MSE and then start on the Faceup for real. I draw the outlines and work on the shape, then fill in. She got the same green eyes as Rooibos. I decided that they were fraternal twins, so I enhanced her markings too. First with pastels, then a white pencil. Here I'm trying to enhance the colors in the iris, then I painted the plus sign pupils. I added some lines and worked on some lashes and whatnot. Some whites inside the eyes, the red things in the inner corners, don't know what they're called, then more lashes and pupils in black. More shady business in the eyes with dark green pastels, darkening the lips and giving her more blush. I smoothen the pastels out with a Q-tip, which works well, then I move on to acrylics. I painted the Faceup in 3 or 4 layers with MSE in between. The pastels and watercolor pencils need to build color. Here I'm just adding some fine white lines to enhance details. I usually don't gloss the eyes, but all my Teamons got special treatment with some Tamiya gloss varnish. This gloss varnish is getting thick, but I can dilute it with some isopropyl alcohol to make it more liquid again. It's a craft hack. And there we go, the Faceup is finished, and we'll pretend I didn't forget the Kintsugi. Next I blush the hands and add some gold flakes. Pink plus green make brown, so the blushing didn't match the face 100%, but it still looks rad. The arm will be hidden, so I'm not doing anything about it. Let's assemble! She's a snake dragon, and I said in my last video that I would add more piercings, so she got some snake bites, just like me. Then I moved on to horns. I had this idea of making them asymmetrical, but I still wanted them to be equally long. I bend them into the shape I want and cover them in hot glue. This way they will be more sturdy while sculpting. Then I use my trusted epoxy clay to sculpt, so one is going higher and the other one lower, which is hard to catch on camera, but in real life it looks awesome. I used this nail thing, I guess it's for the cuticles. Well, anyway, I used it to press on some scales to give it some texture, then I leave it to dry overnight, pull them off, sand them to smoothen it a bit and buff the surface for painting. I give it a coat of green, let that dry, then dry brush with white, then I use my finger to add some shine. Yup, it's an old eBay bought eyeshadow palette that I will never use anywhere near my eyes. I then glue some gold flakes on the inside before I finally gloss them with Liquitex gloss varnish. There we go, looks perfect. Next is clothes. I bought this fabric especially for this project since I didn't have any material green enough to match the hair. Then I used this kimono pattern by DJ Requiem and just followed the instructions, sort of. I didn't read them, but it's straightforward with numbers and everything, it's like IKEA. First the shoulders, then the sleeves. I turn it right side in, so the sides, then fix the edges underneath the arms. One of the sleeves and the bottom of the kimono is going to be under resin, so I was a bit lazy while sewing those parts. It took some convincing and violence for the sleeves to turn right side out, and when that was done, I added the hem. As you can see, the hem wasn't long enough, but she didn't have any legs, so I trimmed and added the seam. Then I airbrushed to give it some gradient, because the green color is like super bright. This was an experiment. I used my silhouette cameo and a sheet of sticker paper and cut out this pattern. Then I removed the pieces inside the pattern. I then used an adhesive to put it in place before airbrushing it with gold paint. It took some trial and error, but it worked really well. I'll do this more often. It feels like I've unlocked a new skill, which is neat. Since the gold paint was so diluted to work with my airbrush, it took a while to get it opaque. Time for the final reveal. So many possibilities. Spray glue and glitter, ombre effect, you name it, I want to do it. I'm looking forward to doing something similar. So this is where I'm at now. I made the obi out of ribbons. I love using contrasting colors, so I used deep red and a dusty pink. Then I wanted some knot, so I researched a 3-petal ornamental knot tutorial. I couldn't do it without pinning everything in place though. It's not really meant to be done using this type of string, but I made a crappy attempt and then a successful one. And this is the successful one. After tightening it, I ended up with this. Another achievement unlocked. I worked some gold paint into it by stabbing it repeatedly with a Q-tip, and I then glued it to the obi. Next I made a double bow. Excuse my bad recording, I didn't know where my hand was. This bow will be barely visible by the way, but you know what, it's the thought that matters, and now we all know it's there. I glue it in the back with fabric glue and let it all dry, and this is what we have so far. Ta-da! Next are the last flowers. I'll never make these again unless I break more cups. I don't have any fancy cups, so I don't know. Highly unlikely. They're made from paper clay, which needs to dry for a couple of hours. While waiting, I add gold to the stems and leaves on the cup and saucer. The numbers match the numbers underneath the flowers to know which goes where. Now that the flowers are dry, I airbrush them, first a base coat, then from above with a lighter shade. They get their blob of glue and some caviar beads in the center, then I glue them on the porcelain. I also painted some white paper flowers green to add as leaves. The flowers lean towards blue while these are more yellow, so they're green but different colors, if that makes sense. I wanted to know if it would work and it looks neat. And there we go, looks perfect! I added a chunk of paper clay at the bottom and positioned the doll. This way I'm not wasting resin, and while that dried, I returned to the ornamental knot and added some shade and highlight. It looked too flat, and yeah, here's a before and after. I glued a clay chunk to the bottom with my glue gun and added a doll. This time I also secured some of the fabric to prevent it from floating on top of the resin. Then I made tea. I feel so stupid because I measured 30 milliliters, weighed it and calculated the density and everything, but at the end of the day both weight and volume were shown on the bottles. It was a bruh moment. The resin looked slightly slimish, so I added some real matcha to get the right color, then I poured it carefully inside the cup. Correct me if I'm wrong, but matcha usually has foam on top. I tried recreating that and it looked okay. I'm bummed it doesn't have the bubbles I tried mixing in, but you know what, it still looks cool. Time to glue the horns in place, trying to make them balanced but asymmetrical. Make that make sense? Here I'm securing it with masking tape, and look at this new cool thing I bought myself for Christmas. A cordless glue gun. I'm not BFF with it yet, you don't have the same control as a regular one, but it's neat not to have that cord tugging at it. These are the last wefts I'm gluing for a while. I'll return to the acrylic yarn after this doll. Here I'm fixing the hair with an embossing tool, but fast. If you want to have it sleek, the boiling method is better. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that because of the horns, cup and, you know, everything. For the hair ornament, I made some tiny kanzashi petals. I'd love to make more of these. It's so soothing when you don't set the ribbon on fire. There are many good tutorials and there are different types of petals one can make. This is just one of them. So this is the base. I added a string before leaving it to dry. Oh, and I added this because it's cute. These are dried petals. I pulled them off and glued them on the head. I was worried it wouldn't work out for a while there, but trust me, it did in the end. Next I glued some gold leaves to the edges, then tried adding pink petals in between, but alas, it didn't look good, so I covered it. Then I added the ornament. She got a chain similar to Robo's to balance the left side. Then I made her the butterflies. I mixed resin with matcha, poured it inside the mold and sprinkled some gold flakes. The matcha fell to the bottom and made the butterflies green opaque, so the gold only shows from underneath, and here are some things I made from the leftovers. Demolding time! To enhance the details, I used my wash from the army painter. I'm not sponsored, I just like their stuff. Let's glue them in place. I added some beads to the horns. I love how green and soft pink work together. Then I used pastels to enhance the kimono before adding gold flakes to her face. It was to match Roibo's since they are siblings and all. And she's finished, let's do the paperwork. I should have written this in kanji, but my Japanese is rusty and I have no one to proofread before I publish this, so I didn't dare. Oh, since she doesn't have a tea bag, she got this bamboo matcha spoon with the label instead. And there we have it, the final Teamon is finished, and look, it's the return of the press-on nails. I've missed them. I did make a bonus Teamon, but she's different, so I wonder if she's part of the family. It sounds harsh, but I didn't use a monster high doll, so the proportion doesn't match. I am looking forward to sharing it with you guys anyway. I'm so glad I finished the series with Matcha though, playing with the colors and figuring out which type of Teamon she is. It was a lovely process. So anyway, without further ado, this is what I started with and this is the result. I finished everything, took photos and edited the video, but then realized I had forgotten the Kintsugi on her face, so I painted that, retook the photos, and here we are. She is complete and I love it. My final Teamon. I hope you enjoyed watching the process and have a happy new year. Until next time, bye!